Good afternoon here, YouTube people. What is going on with you all today? I'm over here in the same bat time, same bat channel. And I wanted to come to you with another video. This is also going to have to do a little bit with the mental health that I was talking about yesterday. Okay, so my dad, he passed away in 2009. It was April of 2009. It was 5:57 p.m. and a Tuesday. Anywho, my dad and I had a really good bond, and so that Thanksgiving, we celebrated Thanksgiving over at my sister's restaurant. And because I was there, because, I did a lot of nighttime work, so I wasn't always able to be at the holiday things, or at least when they wanted to celebrate them, maybe that particular holiday, but, a lot of times they would wait until weekend because they were all working or whatever. But I actually worked night, so when it was that actual holiday, they didn't have to work, but they would choose to be off and do other things, to the point where Saturday or Sunday would be convenient for them. So I had to work. I had 4 kids. Things like this, and it happens. So anyway, long story short, I was broken up about my dad, in November. It was still the same year. When I got there, I kind of looked around for him, because he was always there. He was always a part of me, I loved him being around. He loved being around. So going hand in hand, I looked for him and I couldn't find him. And I started getting teary-eyed over it. Well, my auntie, which would be one of my mom's 3 sisters, the one that was right up under her, she saw that I was, very sad and like to the point of crying and stuff like that. So she came over and sat next to me, and she put her arms around me and she comforted me and that, and nobody else did. Nobody else took the time to check on me to see if I was okay or whatever. It was her. And I always, looked for my aunt in many occasions because of the closeness that we had. My auntie did wrong. I did wrong. We all do wrong. But I don't judge my aunt. My mom was telling me one time that my aunt was bragging about how much money her children made compared to how much money that we made in our family. And yeah, that kind of stuff did not bother me. Not at all. You have certain skills, you do certain things. Maybe, her daughter wasn't making that kind of money. It was her husband, her daughter's husband. So, it wasn't really her that was making it, just because they were associated and married together is why they made that kind of money. And then her son, yeah, I mean, but so what? You got one kid in the family that makes a certain amount of money, and so be it. But who's jealous of that? I wasn't. When my mom told me I wasn't jealous, I'm not going to be jealous over stuff like that. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm given the opportunity to make enough money that I could support myself and my family. That's all that matters. You know, you don't have to worry about how much and this and that. But nevertheless, to get back with this story, my aunt came over to me. She hugged me. She comforted me. She was a loving person towards me. And most people wouldn't even think of that. But in any case, long story short, she hugged me. She made me feel a whole lot better. She really did. And I knew that she had loved me. Now, from that point, that's all I can remember of her as knowing me for who I am. From that point on, I didn't see her again for many years. And then when I did see her, she already was not in her head. And this has a lot to do with mental health. Even when it becomes a sickness. Okay, so she developed dementia, I'm going to say probably 4 or 5 years after my father passed away. And, you know, at first it just started like normally. She would forget certain things here and there and blah, blah, blah. And I think she probably went another 4 years, maybe 3 years, where she was just forgetting things here and there and everywhere. But then it became full-blown Alzheimer's. Some people call that old-timers, but it's Alzheimer's. And with Alzheimer's, if you can imagine your brain just going from a small watermelon to a pea, the size of a pea, that would be about the best that I could describe that dilemma. Anyway, that is what happened to my auntie, and I really felt bad about it. But my mother and I were talking about this. I can't expect my mom to remember everything. She's older herself, and a lot of things she doesn't remember. So, but she told me that my aunt said that she was driving a car. Listen very closely. My aunt was driving a car, and she had the window somewhat down. And something flew in the window and went into her ear. And from that point on, that's when dementia and all of this started happening to her. So right away, I actually started thinking about that, and the only thing that I could best describe that as is a demon. There are many demons out here. There's a demon of infirmity. There's a demon of this and that, and this and that, and this and that. All types of sicknesses, whatever, from AIDS to cancer to you name it, Alzheimer's, whatever. And there is a demon of infirmity. So, with that being said, I believe that is what it was, okay? And I had the ability to do something at that time and never did, and I do regret not doing anything about it. But I questioned her the very last time that I saw her was at my cousin's house, the girl, her and her husband's house, and I said to my auntie, "Do you know who I am?" And she said, "Yes, you're Donna's Bill." Well, my dad, his name was Willis, but they called him Bill. Willis was a lot like William, but he hated Willis. He didn't want it. And even my aunts and uncles, his siblings, called him Billy when he was young and Bill when he got older. So he always had gone by that. Now, my uncle, my auntie that I'm speaking of, his name was Paul, but he went by Bill. So that's why she said, "Yeah, you're Donna's Bill," because it was my dad. But I said, "No, I'm not him. I couldn't fill his shoes, but I'm Danny, his son." But she didn't reply after that, and I think that's about all that I did say to her because she wasn't in her head. But it all had to do with mental health, because a sickness like that deals with your brain and your thinking. That is a mental skill, and you have some kind of infirmity, some sickness. Infirmity is a sickness of something that affects your brain. And I did see it as a demon action. And I should have took it as that, but at that time, I didn't ask my mom. I had asked her later on, but I didn't see my aunt until after. Well, I didn't see her then either, but I never saw my aunt again. And then my mom called like 3 or 4 months after she had passed away and told me that she passed away. She said, "Did you know about your aunt passing away?" And I said, "No." But then something else happened, and my mom did say that it was weird, and I had a dream behind it, but I'm not going to go into all those details. But she said that she thought it was weird that my uncle had mentioned that, did Danny know about her passing away? And there was a dream that I had, I don't know, probably about 2 months ago, that had a lot to do with that whole situation pertaining to it. And I probably should investigate it a little bit more than what I actually have to this point. But nevertheless, I just don't understand a lot of things. A lot of my family members I'm not friends with on any social media or anything. I used to be to several of them, but I'm just not anymore. I'm not connected to them, and we don't talk. They don't talk to me, I don't talk to them, and that's fine and good. And, there's just certain people that, I don't know what I could say to them, and they likewise don't know what they could say to me, Yeah, when you have so many years that go by and that, all they could think of is the times of old. Well, the Danny of old that used to be attached to me no longer exists. So, I've become a totally different person, and they wouldn't know the guy that I am now, and I wouldn't know them from Adam's Horse Cat, It's almost like we're strangers, yet we're not. I have meetings with them when we were young. We used to go and do holidays and this and that and everything else, but at this moment in time, just a lot of things change. And, I had one cousin one time, he said he unfriended me because of all the Bible verses that I was putting on Facebook. And then, so what, But, it was like he was offended by seeing a Bible verse. I mean, you don't have to even look at that. It's just the point that you are family to me. You have certain blood within you that is the same as mine, you know? Why not, just think of that and not even pay attention to what I'm posting, So what? But that's how things go. And that's how people are. I just accept everybody for who they are. He did friend me back, and then after I had one of my phones stolen, I could never get back into my old Facebook again. I didn't have that Gmail, and I didn't have the code to get back into it, so I just left it go. And right now, I only have 3 that are online. One of them was supposed to be a business thing, but things turned around, and I ended up losing the one, so I had to use the other one. And then I had another phone stolen while I was out on the street, and I couldn't get into that one either, so I had to make another one. Now, since then, I have been able to keep the one that I've had, and I've had it, 3, 4, 5 years, somewhere around there. But the older ones I do not have. I don't have access to them, and so be it. That's all I can say about it. But I just wanted to put out there that mental cases don't necessarily mean that you just have whatever. There are many sicknesses that you can come up with that are either demon involved or situations that you had when you were a child. And a lot of people, they live with these childhood wounds and things like that the rest of their life. And so they act just like a child. They could be 60 years old, and they're still a child inside because they have these childhood problems and they never took care of them. The first thing to do is to heal from them, and then to speak to my Father, pray every day about it, and let it go. Let it go. Let it go. You have to let go and let God, just like the song says. You have to, or you just continue to be the same person you always were. And we, as people, the same as what I said yesterday, you have this way of attracting mental people, and mental people attach themselves to you, okay? Well, that's me. But what about you? Do you have toxic people that are attracted to you? And maybe because they thought you also were toxic. Just like me. My sister assumed that I had followed certain traits of mental health problems. It wasn't true, but she assumed that it was. And so she was taking me to see if I could get disability for that, and ultimately get off of the street for that reason. But, it didn't work out that way, and it's not going to be that way, because that wasn't me. But nevertheless, we all have this certain attraction to certain people. If you, at one point in time, you become toxic because, just as I said yesterday, if you lay with dogs, you will sooner than later become a dog, or you will act like one. So if you were at one time, you weren't toxic, but now you are, because that's all you hang out with is toxic people. You're just going to be toxic yourself. And nobody, and I'm telling you this 100%ly, nobody wants to be around a toxic person. But there are a lot of them out here. And some people just, well, that's me. It doesn't have to be you. You choose to be that. If you just continue to say and excuse yourself for that action by saying, well, that's me. That's part of me. I cannot change that. That's just me. Then that's all you're ever going to be. I've heard all these mental people out here time and time and time again. And this is the difference between them and myself. You know, well, I'm homeless. Well, I'm homeless. Well, I'm homeless. Well, if you always say that in your mind can only see what you are claiming to be. There used to be a term, you are what you eat. Well, you are what you say you are. 100%ly. If you say you're this, guess what? You are that, and you will remain being that forever if you want a change. Say that you're something else. Like, okay, well, if somebody says you're toxic and you decide that you are going to accept that as being a toxic person, then you're just going to continue to repeat that kind of stuff. But no, I'm not a toxic person. I am 100% healed from that. I am not this. I am not that. I am this. And then claim whatever it is that you believe in your heart for yourself to be. And that is what you will become. Because your mind can only create the realization of what you're speaking. That is how we are the same and created in the image of my Father. Because that's all my Father ever did do. He created things, even when it came to other people. He spoke to them, he told them to do this and do that. He spoke it out. And when he spoke it out, it happened. Why? Because he was teaching us. If you speak it out and you believe it in your heart, his word says this, by the way. If you speak and believe in your heart to be something other than what everybody else in society says you are, then guess what? There's only the ability to create a certain type of way for you to live. If you say it all the time, well, I'm just a poor guy. I never have any money. I don't have a good job. Nobody likes me. Well, then guess what? That is the painting that you painted for yourself. If you say, everybody loves me, I love everybody, I have more than enough money to live each and every day, I have the world by the tail, then guess what? You only have the ability to create what it is that you believe you are. So that's why I'm saying mental health has everything to do with that, because people with mental health problems never paint goodness into their life. And I try my best to tell them, watch what you say. And I'll say this again, I have said this in many of my videos. Your tongue becomes a double-edged sword. You can bless yourself and curse yourself all in the same time. So if you're just cursing yourself each and every time by saying, I'm poor, I'm weak, I'm this, I'm sick, I have this, I did that, and you keep beating yourself up about it, you will never Understand me, you will never get out of that position. You will always live in that position. But if you change, you wake up, this is why he said, every morning becomes a new morning. You wake up one morning, you say, what? I am not going to do that again. I am not who people are saying that I am. I am this. And you feel it like the whole earth shook right up underneath your feet. And you say, this is me today. I'm changing. I'm becoming a lot better than I used to be. I don't no longer like to be around negative people. I don't like to go with the bad people in my life. They could just be left behind, as far as I'm concerned. It's not being mean. You have to look after yourself. You are your one and only person. Nobody else looks after you. You look after yourself. And then you can look after other people, if that is what you choose to do. I don't have a choice. I do, but I don't. Why? Because I'm an empath. I was born an empath. I have empathy for everybody. I don't care if you're a hater. I have empathy for you. I love you regardless. Like I said, I don't have to like you in the way that you act. I don't have to. But I do have to love you. And that is what matters. Anyways, I want you to know that I love you. I love you right there. Love yourself. Love my Father God. And by all means, love each other, people. Until the next time. Love, peace, and soul. Ah!